Hi, this is Myrna from A Quilter's Choice APQS West. Today I want to show you how I square up backing. It doesn't matter if it's 108-inch wide or regular width fabric. I square it up the same. This one happens to be regular width. Also make sure that you notice if your quilt top or your backing has a direction. If it does, you want to get both pieces, if you're seaming it, going in the same direction. In this case, it's cows, and she did line it up so the cows are going in the same direction. Make sure that that direction is at the bottom if you're putting your quilt on normally. Now this piece has cows, and she didn't care if they matched up or not because it's very busy, so you're not going to notice it anyway. If you have fabric that has a design on it that you want to continue across the seam, the selvage will have a registration mark for you to line it up so you can make sure that the design goes from one side to the other side smoothly. Now you will have to have extra fabric to do that. On this piece that she seamed, I want you to note that she cut the selvage off. That's very important. Selvage on a quilt does not stretch. So if you piece your fabric selvages to selvages, this doesn't stretch at all. Your fabric will stretch the other way. So on this, when you're piecing your backing, make sure your selvages are together, lined up. Then you want to piece them far enough out that you can trim the selvage off. All of the selvage, and those little holes are still selvage, so you want to trim them off because they're not going to give. So as it rolls around your leader or your roll, it's going to get thicker and it's not going to give like the rest of your fabric will. And she left a 1/2 inch on here, which is perfect because I don't have to worry about any white or any of the selvage being in there, and I have enough fabric that it's not going to spread apart. So now to square it up, I want to take the bottom, I fold it in half. I do the same thing on a 100-inch wide backing. If I'm folding selvage to selvage, which by the way, when I'm pinning on 108, I typically pin it on selvage to selvage. The selvage again doesn't give. So when you start rolling it onto your canvas, which I've showed you before, when you first start rolling, it's going to give you little pleats. So you want to pull that out just above the selvage so those little pleats don't continue up your backing. This one has to go on by the bottom because that's the way it fits your quilt, and the cows are going in a direction. So I'm going to back up here. Now I take selvage to selvage and I will hold it up, and I will look at the bottom of my piece down here, and I want to make sure that the fabric isn't pulling one way or the other. If it's pulling one direction or the other, let's see if I can show you, it's going to be pulling on the other side just as well. So you see how this is pulling on this way? So I want to make sure when I drop it down and line up these edges that the fabric hangs straight down. It's not pulling at the fold one way or the other. So I'm just going to hold it up here, and I put my fingers between the fabric, and I can shift it whichever way I need to shift it. Now this one, I don't have to shift. It's hanging perfectly. It's hanging straight down. So what I want to look at is the edge. And she did a really good job here. If you can see, I've only got a little bit that needs trimmed off. And this is a pretty big piece of fabric. So where it isn't even, I'm going to take it. I folded it in half once. Then I'll take it to my cutting table and I will fold it in half again, because that's along with the fabric to keep that line straight. So then I'm going to fold it in half again and do the same thing I did when it was hanging down. I'm going to fold it in half, shake it out, I'm not going to worry, oops, I dropped it. I'm not going to worry about the top of the backing. I don't care what's happening up there. Dropped it, so I have to do it again. Gonna fold it in half again. And I'm going to shift it between my fingers. And I'm going to make sure that it's hanging square. Get any folds or tucks out. And sometimes this is awkward because it's a big piece of fabric. There we go. This is easier to do when I can lay it up on my cutting table. So there, it's hanging perfectly straight. It's not pulling this way or that way. And again, you can see on the edge of the fabric where it's not even. So I'm going to take it over to my cutting table and lay it down to square it up. I've got my piece of fabric all folded, nice and neat, no pulls. So then I'm just going to lay it down on my cutting table. I've put the edge, it's folded on both edges. Here's the center, here's where it's folded double. I will put that edge towards me. Then I'm going to take my ruler, and this is just a 24-inch one, which will spread across the entire width of the fabric. If I'm cutting Minky, that's 90 inches wide, I do have this very long ruler. I do Minky the exact same way. I always pin it to salvage if I can. So I'm going to unfold this a little bit, and I'm looking to see where my shortest edge is. And it appears to be right there. So I'm going to scoop my ruler over. I don't want to cut any more off than I have to. And I just noticed that she's got a little cut here. I know it's hard to see that far away, especially on this cow fabric, but it's cut just a little bit. So that's going to be my shortest edge. And I have plenty of fabric, so I don't have to worry about it. So this little cut is actually further back than the shortest piece of the fabric. So I'm going to line my registration mark on my ruler along this edge. I'm not really using my cutting mat to measure. I just want to know that I've got my registration mark on my ruler lined up. I'm going to get it right past that little edge where it's cut, and I've got my registration mark here along the edge. I'm going to take my rotary cutter. I really like this that you can squeeze. And I'm going to go, keeping this even, I'm just going to go. Now you keep your pressure on your ruler. If I need to move my hand, I will, and I usually do when I get up to this edge because it's further away. Cut it off. Now I've got my straight edge. Look under here. It's all cut, and you can see where this fabric was cut when I saw it on the edge. The other thing I can do is I can take my fabric before I pick it up and shake it out. I'm going to open up that center, the very first where she pieced it, and I can lay it flat on my cutting table. And sometimes how you get that, you know, well, I do. I get a little bow right there in that center. So when I fold it out flat like this, I can tell right away if it's straight or not. If it isn't, the only thing I do is I will lay my ruler down, edge to edge here, and if there is a little bow of fabric there, I just cut that off right there. So now she's nice and straight, so I can take her to the quilting machine. And again, this is the bottom. The cows are facing with their heads up. And earlier I said I don't care what happens up here. It's rare that this is square, but then I deal with the edge that's not square on the top when I get to the top. So if part of it's hanging down 3 inches and the other part is hanging even with my canvas, I'm okay with that. I will adjust it there. Anything that is longer and it's not square, I don't care, as long as I know I have enough backing to cover the entire quilt.